Conservative government don't give a about racism.
This current government is the most ethnically diverse cabinet, but it's also the most rampantly racist, government that we've seen in a long, long time.
Keir Starmer needs to restore the whip to Diane immediately. Otherwise, we're alienating a whole section of our community because she symbolises the voice of the black community in our society.
This event had been called anyway because today, or this weekend, is part of the United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Racism and Discrimination, and we've always thought it's important to highlight the fact that racism isn't simply a thing of the past. That has obviously been highlighted by the events that we've seen and heard this week with the outrageous comments that Frank Hester has made about Diane Abbott, the longest serving black MP. The suggestion that hearing Diane speak makes him wants to go out, that she should be shot, and it makes him want to hate all black women is outrageously racist and sexist. The fact that this man gives, I believe, £15 million to the Tory Party and they've done nothing to give that money back and have seemingly excused his behaviour by continuing to keep that money, shows that they can't be trusted and that we have to organise on the ground to oppose racism.
I don't think that anybody in life should be telling anybody else that they should be shot. So it doesn't matter what colour she is, it doesn't matter that she's a woman. No human being should be threatening somebody else and saying that they should be shot. So that's why I'm here to stand with Diane. I've got a little printout.
Rishi Sunak took time both to call Lee Anderson out and at the same time to acknowledge the statements against Diane were racist. Why is that? He needs to be pinned down to ask that question, because it actually demonstrates what people are concerned about here, racism in the heart of our political system.
Should the Conservative government give back the £10 million to Frank Hester?
Look, I don't believe any political party should survive or be funded by racists themselves. The money should be given back. I actually think it's better for the Tory Party to give the money to an organisation like Stand Up to Racism that is calling out racism and campaigning against it. In that way, the money can be taken and used effectively against racism.
I think it's absolutely ludicrous, but completely unsurprising that they would keep the money. I think it's appalling that Diane Abbott wasn't allowed to speak in Parliament. I just think the whole thing is so exemplary of how rubbish this government are and how deeply we need to get them out.
Yeah, Diane Abbott stood up 46 times and the Speaker just ignored her when there's a conversation happening about her safety and the racism and misogyny that she's been subjected to. And then Rishi and Keir are just jabbing at each other, scoring political points, going on about Corbyn's government. Like, that's not what we're... You know what I mean?
I wrote to Keir Starmer in May of last year and I said that Diane should have the whip restored. I gave him example after example where there are Labour MPs who'd actually committed offences and made statements much worse than what Diane said, and yet no disciplinary action had taken against them, or where it was the whip was restored promptly. Why is it different for Diane? Keir Starmer needs to restore the whip to Diane immediately. Otherwise, we're alienating a whole section of our community because she symbolises the voice of the black community in our society.
It's incredibly important that we're here outside the Home Office, because the Home Office is meant to be the department responsible for community cohesion. We believe that this is a department from which racism has spewed out over the last decade. Successive Home Secretaries, from Theresa May wanting to create a hostile environment for migrants, to Priti Patel, to Suella Braverman and the vile Rwanda resettlement policy that they're trying to impose, highlights the role that the Home Office and this government has played in ramping up racism in our society, and we have to do everything to unite people to oppose that.
Trust Keir Starmer to take racism to address.
That's a really hard question because I don't. I've always supported Labour. However, on this election, I don't know if I'm going to be brave enough to vote for them. I believe that Labour stand for the right things, but Keir Starmer not so much. I think he is a Tory in disguise.
I am so angry with him. I mean, they call themselves opposition. It's not really an opposition anymore, is it? They're just all the same. And it's, I don't know, and refusing to call for a ceasefire. I will never forget that, and I will never forgive him for that. I don't know what I'm going to do when it comes to voting.
Do I trust Keir Starmer? Probably not. Do I think he's the lesser of two evils? Absolutely. I would love to say that a vote for Green is a great vote, but I think realistically, if we want to dethrone Rishi and his government, the best way we can do that is to get Keir in. I don't approve of a lot of his actions, but I do believe in the Labour Party more than I believe in the Tory Party.
Diane Abbott has been someone that's been at the forefront of fighting for people's rights their entire life, and to have what's happening is just abhorrent. So we are here, we support you, Diane, I love you.
It's quite ironic because they say, this current government is the most ethnically diverse cabinet, but it's also the most rampantly racist, government that we've seen in a long, long time, and that's strategic because they have all these black and brown people at the top of society telling us, there's no more racism because I'm here, but then, the rest of us are still facing oppression. So I think it really shows that racism is rampant no matter who's at the top.
Racism is also internalized, so you don't have to be white to enable white supremacy and white systems. You can be of any colour. It's generally in this country a class thing, actually. So just because we have a Prime Minister from a Southeast Asian background, that doesn't mean that he won't still implement the same regimes and systems of white supremacy and institutionalised racism that we see happening in the UK.
The current government is really using Islamophobia to demonise and villainise the Muslim community, and their racism is emboldening the far right and allowing them to mobilise. So I think it's really important that we come together to fight against all forms of racism, anti-Semitism, discrimination against Gypsy Roma community, and the anti-refugee rhetoric that the government keep pushing to divide us. In times of crisis, governments become more authoritarian, and that includes Labour. Labour have just basically been trying to one-up Conservative in terms of the way we talk about refugees. Labour say actually we need stronger borders, and they're just trying to really push further than the Conservatives are. So I don't trust Labour takes anti-racism seriously, because at the end of the day their agenda is about getting into power, and that's all they really care about.
The Conservative government don't give a fuck about racism. They don't give a fuck about anyone other than themselves.